welcome to the June 4th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. If you'd all rise for pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good evening and welcome for those of you that are in attendance and for those of you that have tuned in. This is our last month of fiscal year, so there'll be a lot of happenings later in this agenda. We'll be talking about and reading through briefly the town warrant that will be discussed and voted on in 2 weeks. So announcements of just a couple. One is that next Tuesday at the middle school is the polls will be open to vote for municipal offices as well as the water district trustee position as well as the school board of directors position. They will all be on the ballot next Tuesday, and the additional ballot will be to ratify the RSU 57's budget numbers that were put forth at their budget town meeting, I guess I would refer to it as, 2 weeks ago. So please mark that on your calendar. The polls open at 7 a.m. and we'll close at 8 p.m. next Tuesday evening. And again, that is for the municipal elections. And they will be held at the middle school. On Saturday morning, or Saturday at 10 a.m., the 15th, which is a week from this coming Saturday, there will be we'll be holding town meeting at the middle school in the middle school cafeteria. So that commences at 10 and goes until the last vote is cast on the last warrant article. So keep those in mind if you're interested in either one of those. The other announcement is this Saturday there is a I'm going to call it a free day at the dump for those of you that have items that typically there is a charge for or a disposal fee for. You can bring those items to the dump and there will be no charge for this Saturday and this Saturday only. We hope to, if this goes well, we will have a follow-up free day in the fall and see if we can help keep some of the these items out of the backwoods and the back roads in the town of Waterboro. So that being said, those are 3 dates that you should keep in mind. Any other announcements that I might have missed?
If I could piggyback on top of the transfer station cleanup day and just ask people that if you see things out in the woods that are eyesore, and you're coming to the transfer station, you have, and you can pick them up and bring them in. It'll make our town a better place. And then the other thing too, I'd ask, and I've been asked at the transfer station that is a very, very busy time, morning. And when you have that many people in line, it also can be a kind of a testy time for some people that don't wait well. One thing is we could request that Officer Sean is there, or I told him that I'd come down and do a little work for several hours too. So any help that we can give and we can get down there, I think it's going to be appreciated.
Okay. Anything else, folks? If not, we have no appointments this evening. Hearing a delegation. correspondence. We do not have any correspondence in the packet. Christina was out the middle of last week and won't be back until tomorrow. So next week's agenda, I'm sure, will be full of correspondence. Reports of staff and initiatives. We are blessed this evening to have our cable TV committee representative, Richard Bateman, with us, whom after 22 years is going to start traveling, I guess, from what I understand. So, Richard, you're up.
Yeah, I'm fortunate, I guess, that my son has bought a second house down in Florida. He's trying to get me to spend my winters down there.
There you go.
So, something to look forward to. The Saco River Cable TV Committee will be meeting tomorrow night in Hollis. And, excuse me, trying to formulate a response to Time Warner's response to our request for $262,000. And their response was a contract of $225,000. So at least they responded. It took them a long time. So this will be a meeting in which we'll try to formulate, do we compromise or what do we do? And so I'll let you know.
And this money is all for capital equipment?
That's right, various things.
For the...
That had originally been agreed to.
And it's for the length of the franchise, right?
For 15 years.
Right.
So as technology, equipment costs are increasing, they want to decrease the amount of money that they're...
I know. And they want to cut it.
Raise our rates.
Yep.
All right. I want to thank all of you selectmen for your cooperation for the 20-some years that I've been doing this. And I'd like to ask your acceptance of my recommendation is that David Lowe take over my duties as of the end of the month.
We will certainly take that under advisement. And again, we want to, before you step down there, we want to thank you for a long run of a very dedicated person and to deal with the cable TV franchise for as long as you've done it. You know, that sometimes it's as exciting as watching paint dry, right? I mean, so you have kind of held with it, and we really appreciate your efforts, Richard. So
it was easier for me because Tony Vigu did most of the work. So.
Well, yeah, I would agree. There was, and there is he's a big piece of that committee,
That's
and
right.
and if it wasn't for him, we'd all have probably spent a lot more time in doing things. So we appreciate your time and effort. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, David.
Saco River Cable TV Board. We're going to bring David out from behind the cable TV and have the camera monitors.
Not a lot to report for the board at Saco River TV. As Dick said, we're kind of waiting to see what happens with the franchise negotiations there. And I will put my application in to cover his position. He certainly deserves to move on and have some time off there in Florida. That sounds like a plan. A couple of things that I just received actually today in a letter from Patrick Bosnan, the station manager, is that they've had a couple of programs that are getting some pretty good recognition there for a little local cable company. They recorded a program called the Saco River Indian Cellar, which is a documentary that looks at the efforts of Hollis residents to protect this historic natural landmark site from development and preserve it as a protected park forever. It caught the eye of an international film festival called Green Unplugged, and that's going to be broadcast with their documentaries around the world. They also have a Civil War reenactment that Matt and Patrick recorded at New Orleans Living History Center, and the Civil War reenactment that they recorded and produced is going to be broadcast statewide sometime this fall. So getting some pretty big things done for a little studio. And that's about it.
Good.
All right.
Thanks, David. Selectmen's report. Gordon? Amy Jo? John? David? Just quickly, from my side, did have a transfer station committee meeting last night. And just want to remind everybody that the annual meeting of Eco Maine will be held Thursday. I think I told everybody last night Wednesday, but Thursday, the 13th at Eco Maine facility. And if you are interested, you are invited as board members. If you're interested, please let Christina know tomorrow so that she can let Lynn in Eco Maine know how many heads to expect from the town of Waterboro.
Was there any discussion last night at the meeting about dropping the charge for metal?
Yes.
There was.
So Clint will come to this board. There's been some discussion of, eliminating the fee, at least in the current market conditions, for any metal that's dropped at the transfer station.
Good.
So. But I don't want to steal his thunder. We'll let him.
Okay.
We'll put him on for next week on the agenda. All right. Anything else from the selectmen? For those of you that don't know, Julie is still out recuperating from surgery. So Nancy has been doing the treasurer's functions as well as everything else. So she is still out, I think, doing payroll or something. So we'll jump into new business. Discuss vote to approve renewal of state malt and vinous liquor license for Lee's Family Restaurant.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Just so that everybody knows, both the code office and the fire department, fire marshal have reviewed and recommend approval. So, no other discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Second item, to vote to approve the town planner's contract, as discussed in the past few meetings and as of last week. So, I have a motion now.
So moved.
Been moved. We have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? I think this is what we discussed last week. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next item on the agenda is to vote to approve the fire chief's employment contract. And again, as presented through the meeting that we had last week.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. I'm going to skip town meeting warrant and just at least get the vote on item 5 if there's no objection to that. Discuss vote to approve the renewal of the animal shelter contract with the Animal Welfare Society Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed? And that motion carries. So back to item 4. Don't know how detailed you want to go through this, folks. I think last few years we've just kind of quickly gone through the warrant article items. I think we just rotated on the table here and read each one and went along with that. So if that's amenable to everybody, that's the way we'll handle this evening. So let me at least start off by going through the first few here, which are really kind of business issues. Needless to say, the warrant has been posted. Article 1 will be to elect a moderator to preside at said meeting. That will happen on next Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. when the polls open, so we need at least 25 voters there to make that happen. So if you happen to be in the area and would like to get your vote cast early, you can also help us open the meeting early. So that will take place on Tuesday the 11th at 7 a.m. Article 2, which will also commence when the polls open, is to elect Selectmen, Assessor, Overseer of the Poor. There are 2 positions to be elected. RSU 57 Board of Directors, that's a 3-year term. There's 1 position to be elected. And not on our warrant, but certainly the Water District's warrant, there is also the election of a Waterboro Water District trustee for a 3-year term. So the polls will open at 7 and close at 8 p.m. that evening. There is a note here from the town clerk that absentee ballots will be processed at the polls at the following times: 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 p.m. If you want to, you still can come in and vote early, absentee ballot, and those ballots are available now at the town office. So that will then move us to Saturday morning. So why don't we go from my left to right, and we'll start with the easy one for Gordon. Article 3.
Article 3, to see if the town will accept the reports of the several town offices for the year ending June 30th, 2012. Board of Selectmen recommendation ought to pass.
Article 4, to see if the town will vote that all credit balances as of June 30th, 2013 in all departments of town government be zeroed out in accordance with June 14, 2013 town meeting vote, excluding the following account balances to be carried forward until utilized: the Waterboro Community Garden, restructuring $3,000. Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee recommend ought to pass.
Okay, Article 5, to see if the town will vote to authorize municipal offices to accept gifts to the municipality and expend the same, and to make application for and execute any documents required for various grants from the state and federal government, as well as individuals and private charities, foundations, and to further authorize said municipal office to accept any such gifts if awarded, and authorize their expenditure for the purpose to be specified.
Article 6, to see if the town will vote to increase the property tax levy amount of $1,817,422 established for the town by state law in the event that the municipal budget approval under the preceding articles result in a tax commitment that is greater than the property tax levy limit.
And
Go ahead.
that's just for clarification, that is the old LD1 thing. It just keeps getting bigger every year because it doesn't go back and reset, and some of us on this board wonder why we even do that, but it is state law that we have to do that. So. All right, David, I'm sorry.
Article 7, to see if the town will raise and or appropriate $38,683 from taxation to pay the 6-month York County tax commitment associated with a change in the fiscal year approved by the York County Commissioners. Note, total 6-month commitment of $193,412.45 to be paid over 5 years. Board of Selectmen recommend ought to pass. Finance Committee ought to pass.
Gordon?
Article
I
8.
think you could probably forego all of the numbers, but anyway.
Article 8, to see if the town will raise and or appropriate $356,462 from taxation, $13,772 from excise plus $10,319 in miscellaneous fees for a total of $380,553 for general government expenses pertaining to the custodian, selectman, administrative assistant, motor vehicle agent, town administrator, deputy town administrator, stipend, committee secretary, mileage, training, education, and goal planning, Maine Municipal Association dues, dues in general, office supplies for all town departments, postage, permitting at the town pit, tax bills, telephone, town engineer, legal and registry audit, town reports, advertising, area selectmen's meetings, incidental expense, volunteer recognition, animal control, health and dental insurance, and retirement. There is a litany of figures that break down each of those that I won't go into. You'll be able to find this information on the website if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Article 9, to see if the town will raise and or appropriate $48,174 from excise, $14,836 from miscellaneous fees, and $127,305 from rescue billing fees for a total of $190,315 for loans, leases for the year ensuing, lease payment of the SCBA, squad truck, principal and interest, passed at the special town meeting, computer leases, tractor lease, municipal vehicle lease, photocopier leases. So basically all of the leases for the town fall under this article. The $1 million bond matured in November 2011. The 2009 West Road bond and interest excess balance will be used to pay down the debt service. Both the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee recommend ought to pass.
Okay. Let me flip my page here. Article 10, see if the town will raise and or appropriate $176,800 from taxation for unemployment compensation, Social Security, workers' compensation, insurances, Medicare, and to return to work, Medicare and return to work, tax anticipation note for the year ensuing. Requested amount is $176,800, and both the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee recommend ought to pass.
Article 11, to see if the town will raise and or appropriate $55,790 from miscellaneous fees for town clerk expenses for the year ensuing. The town clerk's salary is up the 2.5%. The dental, health and dental is the same as preceding years. Retirement is basically the same. Travel is up by $300. Training is up by about $600. Lodging is the same. Meals are the same. Dues are the same as last year. Elections are down by $8,000 due to the lack of a gubernatorial or presidential election. Advertising is down by $500 because of the in-between elections. The total is $55,790. The Board of Selectmen recommends ought to pass, and the Finance Committee also recommends ought to pass.
Could I add something? The difference too in the elections is last year had the counter in case we had a new, and the state's going to give us the new counter.
Okay.
So we don't,
I'm sorry.
Great, thanks.
maybe.
We haven't got it yet.
Article 12, to see if the town will raise and appropriate $45,641 from miscellaneous fees for tax collector expenses for the ensuing year. This is approximately $348 more than last year. Question, Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee ought to pass. Could this be posted as we read this next year? You know, I mean, why couldn't this be shown on the screen?
Can you pull it up now, David, and show it on the screen?
I don't know, it's just a question.
Well,
Oh, I'm thinking TV wise.
yeah,
Yeah.
while you're working on that, we'll continue.
Okay.
14, Gordon?
13, isn't it?
13, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm jumping, sorry.
Let me bring this down here. Article 13, to see if the town will raise and/or appropriate $58,489 from miscellaneous fees for treasurer expenses for the ensuing year. This amount is down by about $200 over a previous year. Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee both recommend ought to pass. Excuse me, I'll give you the proper figure. It's down about $1,200.
Article 14, to see if the town will raise and/or appropriate $69,881 from taxation and $30,000 from cable TV fees for a total of $99,881 for the IT department for year ensuing. Last year's requested amount was $95,371, so it's an increase of about $4,500, and that is predominantly in the salary line. Board of Selectmen recommendation is ought to pass. The Finance Committee recommendation is $58,739 from taxation, $30,000 from cable TV fees for a total of $88,739, with a salary of $38,562, 3% increase.
Okay, Article 15, see if the town will appropriate up to $12,000 from cable TV franchise fees in the case of an emergency equipment replacement or repair of broadcasting equipment, and then only with the approval of the town administrator for the year ensuing. Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee recommend ought to pass.
Article 16, to see if the town will raise and/or appropriate $83,350 from surplus for municipal building equipment and maintenance, street lights, fuel oil, traffic lights, and electricity. The bottom line here, this year, it is down from $138,832 in 2012 to this year's $83,350. The result of building contingency being moved out of this account, also insurance plan, and Nancy, that was moved elsewhere.
No, that will be done.
It was done.
Yep.
Okay. So this is one of the articles where it's less, and naturally the board recommends ought to pass along with the Finance Committee.
Article 17, to see if the town will raise and appropriate $44,000 from taxation for the assessing department for the ensuing year. Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee vote ought to pass the same amount of money as last year.
Article 18, to see if the town will raise and/or appropriate $34,987 from surplus, $27,650 from department revenue, for a total of $62,637 for the salaries of the building inspector, plumbing inspector, code enforcement officer, and for operational expenses for the ensuing year. The previous amount appropriated in 2012 was $62,891. This year's appropriation request is $62,637, down roughly $250. Both the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee recommend ought to pass.
Article 19, to see if the town, technical difficulties here. To see if the town will raise and or appropriate $80,259 from taxation, $1,970 from department revenue, for a total of $82,229 for the upkeep and maintenance of the Waterboro Public Library, and to help defray the cost of operating expenses, librarian, books, and supplies for the year ensuing. This is an increase of about $700 from last year's budget, and recommendation of ought to pass from both the Selectmen and the Finance Committee.
Okay, Article 20, see if the town will raise and or appropriate $82,810 from surplus, $161,050 from department revenue, for a total of $243,860 for the Waterboro Parks and Rec Department, and for the attendant at the boat launch at Ospey Lake. Sponsors of any fishing tournament outside of regular manned hours will pay for an attendant and or have a trained inspector to inspect all boats and trailers for growth of or plants. Hours will be dawn to dusk. Additional revenue from programs received during the fiscal year may not be spent without prior approval of the Board of Selectmen. Both the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee recommend ought to pass.
Article 21, to see if the town will raise and appropriate $2,510 from planning board revenues and $8,435 from surplus, for a total of $10,945 for the Waterboro Planning Board for the year ensuing. This is another article where the upcoming year is lower than the present year. The present year is $14,045, and we're down about $3,050 to $10,945. And the salaries are the same, and where there's differences is there's legal fees are down, the consultants are down a little bit, advertising is down, and there you go. It's recommended ought to pass by the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee.
Article 22, to see if the town will raise and or appropriate $98,500 from taxation and $13,335 from surplus, for a total of $111,835 for the plan department for the ensuing year. This is down about $800 from last year. Both Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee recommend ought to pass.
Before I move on, Mr. Chairman, just get that up now for the
Okay.
screen.
Excellent.
Article 23, to see if the town will raise and or appropriate $1,284 from surplus, $800 from zoning board revenue, for a total of $2,084 for zoning board of appeals for the year ensuing. This is down from the appropriated amount of 2012, which was $3,284. The amount requested for this year is $2,084. So we're down roughly $1,200. Both the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee recommend ought to pass.
Article 24, to see if the town will raise and or appropriate $742,903 from taxation, $5,320 from excise, $62,051 from rescue billing fees, and $15,000 from the ambulance subscription, for a total of $825,274 for fire department services for the ensuing year. Any rescue service revenues in excess of $20,000 at the end of the year be held in an account designated only for the purchase of equipment and shall be spent only with town meeting approval, except in the case of emergency, including but not limited to equipment replacement or repair, and then only with the approval of the Board of Selectmen and the Fire Chief as outlined in the Town of Waterboro Fire Department and Emergency Medical Services Ordinance. The difference in this article is about $21,000 increase over last year. The increases, there's an increase in fuel cost, big increase in equipment maintenance with the selectmen recognizing that we need to put enough in that line to cover what we've actually been seeing for expenses. And there's also an increase in the dispatch fees, which we get billed by Sanford Regional, and we don't have any control over that. It's based on population. The recommendation of the Board of Selectmen is ought to pass. Finance Committee recommendation is $735,683 from taxation, $5,320 from excise, $62,051 from rescue billing, and $15,000 from ambulance subscription, for a total of $818.54. Fire chief salary, $57,780, 3% increase.
Okay. Article 25 is to see if the town will raise and or appropriate $30,435 from taxation and $11,565 from surplus, for a total of $42,000 for hydrant rentals for the year ensuing. These are the hydrants that are associated with the Waterboro Water District. Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee recommend ought to pass.
Article 26, to see if the town will raise and or appropriate $7,837 from surplus for the Ross's Corner Fire Company. The amount requested is, again, $7,837. Last year it was $6,605. It's recommended ought to pass by the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. Just want to mention that the Ross's Corner Fire Department is supported by Waterboro, Shapley, and Alfred.
Article 27, to see if the town will raise and or appropriate $473,221 from taxation and $92,275 from transfer station fees, for a total of $565,496 for solid waste disposal and maintenance of the transfer station and capital improvements for the transfer station for the ensuing year. This is down approximately $4,000 from last year. Both Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee recommend ought to pass.
Article 28, to see if the town will raise and or appropriate $919,734 from excise and $85,968 from the LRAP, that's the Local Road Assistance Program, for a total of $1,005,702 for road department for salaries, health and dental insurance, retirement, mileage, electricity, radio, tractor repairs, fuel, snow plowing, sanding contracts, sand and salt stockpile, cutting of brush, seal coat and tar, roads and bridges, striping, E911 signs, ditching of roads and plowing, sanding and snow removal on the sidewalks located on the West Road up to the Massabesic High School for the year ensuing. The bottom line on this is up from last year's appropriation of $920,043 to $1,005,702. So it's up about $85,000 roughly.
Article, sorry.
Both the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee recommend ought to pass. I'm done.
Article 29, to see if the town will raise and/or appropriate $71,419 from taxation and $50,000 from state reimbursement for a total of $121,419 for general assistance for the year ensuing. And this includes salary, retirement, but also general assistance such as meals, food, rent, Medicare, medicine, cremation. It's down roughly $1,400 from last year, and the big decreases are in heat, food, and rent. Both the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee recommend ought to pass.
Is it 1,400 or 14,000?
14,000.
All right, Article 30, shall the town vote to authorize the road commissioner and the winter road foreman with fiscal approval from the Board of Selectmen to spend public funds on emergency winter maintenance for public safety reasons, only on private property after determination of an emergency by the fire chief, contract deputy, out of the winter maintenance account. Both the board and the finance committee recommend ought to pass.
Article 31, to see if the town will raise and appropriate from $88,972 from surplus for York County Deputy Sheriff. The amount requested is $88,972, which is the same as it was last year. And the Board of Selectmen recommend ought to pass, as does the Finance Committee.
Article 32, to see if the town will raise and/or appropriate $25,725 from cable franchise fees and $52,875 from surplus, for a total of $78,600 for the Recycling Committee, cemeteries, Memorial Day, Taylor Fry Levitt House, Waterboro Share Regional Public Access Facility, Economic Development Committee, Road Review Committee, Comprehensive Plan Committee, and Finance Committee. This is up approximately $3,000 from last year. Both Selectmen and Finance Committee recommend ought to pass.
Article 33, to see if the town will raise and/or appropriate $14,550 from surplus and $5,150 from revenues for a total of $19,700 for Old Home Days. This is a flat request from last year. The Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee both recommend ought to pass.
Article 34, to see if the town will raise and/or appropriate $13,023 from taxation for the following agencies: York County Community Action, York County Shelters, Southern Maine Senior Area Agency on Aging, the Biddeford Free Clinic, the Levitt's Mills, Saco River Corridor Commission, York County Child Abuse Prevention, Caring Unlimited. Board of Selectmen recommend $10,915 from taxation, $3,500 for York County Community Action, $1,865 for York County Shelters, $2,500 for Southern Maine Senior Agency, $500 for Biddeford Free Clinic, $1,000 for Levitt's Mill, $1,000 for Caring Unlimited, Saco River Corridor Commission $300, and York County Child Abuse Prevention $250. And Finance Committee ought to pass Selectmen's recommendation. The organizations that requested money this year also provided us with financial statements and whatnot.
Okay. Article 35 is our capital appropriation article to see if the town will raise and or appropriate $336,306 from taxation for the town of Waterboro's capital improvement plan for the year ensuing. There are a litany of different items here. Well, let me quickly. Additional ditching, $60,000. LED lighting, $30,000. Friendship Park fence, $10,000. South Station roof, $35,000. Fire department utility truck, $46,075. Fire department extradition tool, 15,231, Hamilton Bridge Road, $100,000, and Daring Ridge Road Engineering, $40,000, for a total of $336,301. Board of Selectmen recommend that ought to pass. The Finance Committee is at $311,306, 25,000 less, all associated with the South Station roof. So, compared to last year, it's about 11.5% down.
Article 36, to see if the town will allow the state revenues from registration fees derived from the registration of snowmobiles to be placed in a separate account for the maintenance of fire roads for the year ensuing, and to be expended under the direction of the fire chief, the road commissioner, and a representative from the snowmobile club. That is recommended ought to pass by the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee.
Article 37, to see if the town will authorize the collector of taxes to charge interest at the rate of 7% per year on all unpaid taxes remaining unpaid on the 31st day after the date of mailing. Both Board and Finance Committee recommend ought to pass.
Article 38, to see if the town will set the rate of interest of 8% on abated property taxes due to overvaluation as per Title 26, Maine Revised Statutes Annotated, Section 506A. Both the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee recommend ought to pass.
Article 29, to see if the town will vote to authorize the tax collector or treasurer to accept prepayment of taxes not yet committed pursuant to 36 MRSA 506. Both the Selectmen and Finance Committee recommend ought to pass.
That is the end of the warrant. We have a number compared to where we were last year. Total municipal budget, based on the recommendations by the board, come in at $4,803,421, as compared to $4,720,891 last year. So overall, the whole budget would be up by $80,422. I think that was right?
And Finance Committee.
Right, and Finance Committee is recommending that it only go up by $37,000 with their, they've got a few recommendations and a couple of articles to take it down. So, if you take 80,000 over the 47, we're up what?
Yeah.
Let me do the math quick.
It's about
It's
2.5%.
4.7, right? It's about 2.5%, 2%, 2.5%. So
That's without the schools, right?
that's without the schools. And just kind of to give you a feel, and I don't want to steal Nancy's stuff, but she's got the stuff here. Each year after everything is sorted out, we come up with a commitment on the tax rate. That includes everything that's kind of in the system, real estate valuation, personal property tax. It includes homestead exemptions. There's a magic formula that you probably have to have a fifth-year degree as a finance major to calculate some of this. But the minimum based on RSU's 57's local share here, which now, should that get voted in on Tuesday, will be $7,488,340 for the municipality. And then our $4,800,000, and you sort all through that. The minimum tax rate could be $12.92, we'll say, but that gives us absolutely bare bones and no overlay whatsoever, which is something that we've typically not done in this town. We've always been 3.5% with overlay. We can have a maximum of 5%, which would take you to $13.56 tax rate. Tax rate today is $12.80. So Nancy's got two scenarios here. One that would raise it by 55 cents to $13.35, which would give us an overlay of $330,000, and it would be about a 4.3% increase over the current tax rate. The other one is $13.50, which would give us about $445,000 in overlay, or 5.5% increase. So we will wrestle with this once we come out of town meeting, but makes the assumption that everything in town meeting passes, RSU as presented passes, so we're somewhere in that neighborhood.
And whatever we get from the state. This is
Right,
as presented.
this is still the wild card in that, as I think anyone that watches local news knows, there is no finalization of the state budget. So there's still an opportunity for them to take $500,000 out of us in revenue sharing. That all has to come into play here, and we'll have to deal with that as we reach the time to commit taxes. And but I think as we as a board voted that we would go into town meeting and not prepare for the worst. I think you have to prepare for this is what we need. I think it's, if you look at the municipal budget, it's $80,000 over where we were last year. So we were 4.7 million last year. We're 4.8 million this year. You know, it's a pretty prudent control, and you know, if you look at some of the big ticket items, you know, we're certainly, I think in the last 2 years, we've really had to pay attention to some of our road infrastructure. At the same time, I think we've been able to continue to reduce transfer station costs, which has helped offset some of those things. And you know, a number of years ago, people were screaming that we'd be paying $1 million in waste removal or solid waste removal fees. And that really hasn't happened. I think a lot of things are working in our favor. People are recycling more. We're seeing the assessments from EcoMaine, which we're a part owner in, continue to go down. So there's some good things happening. And I think, you know, we are focusing on fixing the infrastructure in this community the best we can. We're not throwing tons and tons of money at it. So this is what we will be voting on a week from Saturday. So we would appreciate folks' input. And town meeting is the purest form of your ability to get up and speak for or against an article. So we would ask that if you have the time and passion, I guess, to show up to town meeting and express your right to vote. So, any other comments or?
Nancy, what's the, you were gonna get us a number that the RSU would increase taxes by? You were gonna break it down by what was municipal, what was RSU, what was county?
Okay, I haven't done it. I can do that. Because it's all just going to be,
Right,
Yeah.
because
but we
it
wanted an
continues.
idea.
Okay,
I know you had done it once, and I think you had figured it on the 1.5
yeah.
million, and they came in at 1.
But I think if you look at the RSU's proposed budget, it's 5.6 or 5.7% increase to us in the town of Waterboro, which really carries this whole. I mean, if we look at it, we're $80,000 up in our budget. We did not increase and go after revenues in that budget, right? So we're flat. So the 80,000 is probably all tax, which is about a dime on the rate. So if you look at, you just kind of quickly do that kind of math, you know, you're looking at about a 55-cent increase in the tax rate, 10 cents of it being the municipality and the rest of it being driven by RSU 57 and a little bit from our friends at the county level, right? And in our increase is also the 1/5 payment or the 20% payment in the county tax fiscal year scenario too, right? So, okay. So again, if anybody's got any questions, feel free to call any one of us on the board or send us an email.
Come to town meeting.
Come to town meeting is exactly right. So, anything else on new business? Nancy, do you have anything you wanted to report on? We'll go back.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I left off copies of your forest management plan. It was dropped off, I believe Brian came in to meet with the board. I'm not sure, did he, Roger?
Yeah.
So this is the plan that he came up with for you to review. And also in the CDBG, we got the first stage completed. The next stage is for the selectmen to hold a public hearing and a special town meeting. And one of the questions had been asked by Steve if we could not hold them both at the same night so we wouldn't have to make 2 trips now.
Why do you have to have a special town meeting?
Because it's a special article, because it's a CDBG.
So the cost associated with running the meeting is on us, but the real community development block grant is for the RSU water main expansion, right?
So what's gonna be voted on? Nothing.
Well,
It has to be special town meeting, it has to be voted on by the people
accept it?
to accept it.
Oh.
So our article doesn't qualify for that, the little article that we have in here?
not for the CDBG, they want it specific.
And we can't do, it's too late to do an amendment to the town warrant,
It's already posted.
but you can't do an amendment to
You
that,
could
or
do an
addition,
amendment.
and do it all at the same time.
You'd have to hold a public hearing. You wouldn't have time to hold a public hearing before then.
So how can we hold a public hearing and run the special town meeting the same night, Steve?
You can hold a public hearing to get the input and then
Close it.
close it and then go
Well,
into the
I suppose
special.
you're right. All right, anything else, Nancy?
That's it.
Old business, just a quick update if anybody's got anything on where we stand. We're still working the town administrative position. Job descriptions,
They're pretty well finalized. The last word I got from Christina, when she comes back, I'm gonna be meeting with her to get copies and get everything forwarded to the board.
Public Works. Okay,
Yeah, it's at a point where basically you're gonna sit down with whoever the town administrator is gonna be and iron out a few things.
and then bylaws and policies, since how we're gonna operate totally different a month from today.
Yeah. Probably have that done, and if not next week, the week after.
All right, warrants and bills for payroll, and entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
All those, any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Minutes of May 28th, regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Pending decisions, I think we're all set there. Week's action list. Nancy, just if you can get us out, just a breakdown quickly, so I know that I've already had a couple of discussions with the local papers, so we have the final numbers for that. I can at least quote accurate numbers. Agenda items for next week.
Need to discuss this request from Mark Mitchell on the
Right.
docks.
We also have Clint from the Transfer Station Committee is gonna come in relative to the fees on the, and I think that's the only proposal, is to waive the metal fees for the time being until the market changes.
What do you think about asking Sean to come in Saturday morning for several hours to be over at the transfer station?
Might be too late. Usually the
Just-
sheriff asks a couple weeks in advance because if his days off have already been scheduled and whatnot.
Well, I think it's worth us just alerting the sheriff's department that we have.
I don't know if he's got all his plans set up
Yeah.
for the week, but if it's something that he can move a couple of hours, it might be helpful.
Yeah.
From what I understand, it's pretty much a zoo over there.
Okay, anything else for the agenda?
While Clint's here, should we maybe just do a recap for us of what happens on Saturday?
We can have him do that. And I would, if someone would make the motion, we'll add an executive session for MRSA Section 405-6 for personnel matter to discuss at the end of this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? We'll add that at the very end, once we read the announcement. And,
There is, can I just make a, there's no meeting in 2020, June 10th. I think it's been moved to
Okay.
July 1st or 8th.
All right, so let me run through these. Don't forget that we need to sign warrants and bills of payroll minutes, town planner and fire chief's contracts. No planning board meeting tomorrow night. I guess the next meeting is the 26th. All right, 26th. Conservation Committee, June 6th, 5 p.m. at the Old Town Hall. Cribbage Tournament this Saturday morning at the Town Hall at 8:30. You said there's no 2020 committee meeting,
Right.
David?
Right.
12 Town Group is meeting June 10th. Here at 6:30. Cemetery Committee, June 10th at 7 p.m. in the Old Town Hall. Don't forget, Election Day is Tuesday, June 11th, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. June 11th, Selectmen's meeting will be here, Road Review Committee and the Road Commissioner. June 12th, Road Review Committee meeting over at the Old Town Hall at 6 p.m. Senior Luncheon, June 13th, 11:30 a.m. Also on June 13th at 11:30 a.m. is Eco Maine's annual meeting. Thursday, June 13th, 6:30 p.m. Old Home Days Committee. Still looking for members, for those of you that might be watching and interested. June 13th, 7 p.m. Finance Committee in the Old Town Hall. Annual Town Meeting is June 15th, 10 a.m. A week from this Saturday at the middle school. And then Tuesday, the 18th, back here to do it all over again.
Tomorrow night?
June 18th.
No.
Oh, tomorrow night?
That's
We
not
do have
posted?
I believe it is posted. There is a 4:30 meeting to handle a personnel issue. The one that was supposed to have been a week ago. Okay? And it is at 4:30, right?
Yes.
Anything else? If not, if someone would
So
move
moved.
to take us
Second.
into executive session in 5 minutes, we'll allow everybody to clear.
So moved.
So it's been moved, seconded, all those in favor? Opposed? Thank you.